Hi there, I'm Mike. What I have for you today, Star Wars The Black Series, Zuckuss. Go ahead and take a look at this picture of Zuckuss while I read the bio on the back of the box. A Gand bounty hunter, Zuckuss heeded the Empire's call for mercenaries to locate the Millennium Falcon and bring her fugitive crew to justice, receiving his orders on the bridge of Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer. That pretty much sums up the famous one scene that Zuckuss was in. Zuckuss here is a Gand bounty hunter. There might be people out there in the comments section saying, that's not Zuckuss, that's 4-LOM. And that's because they are sticking to a mistake that Hasbro made back in the 80s when they came out with the figures. And for some reason they just stick to that, which is weird when everything else says it's different, but you know, you do you. Zuckuss is often paired with 4-LOM, the person that, or 4-LOM, whatever you want to say. They're paired together because that's just usually how that works. They do have very similar features. They both enjoy a bug headness, but 4-LOM is a protocol droid with a bug head, and Zuckuss is an alien with a very similar but different looking bug head. He's also a little force sensitive apparently. I learned that. I didn't know that. I was just reading about him before this thing because I was curious. The only other Gand that I know of in Star Wars was the one from the X-Wing novel series, and that's not canon anymore. I hope they recanonize that somehow. But a fun fact about him, since he is an alien, he doesn't breathe oxygen, so he does have this really neat kind of oxygen mask, which brings us to the first point of the review, the likeness. Does it match here what it looks like on screen? I will say, yeah, mostly. The one picture that you can easily find online of Zuckuss is facing down, perspective up. He doesn't look the best. Let's all be honest here. It looks like a person in a suit with alien bug hand gloves, and they look really kind of bloated and chunky. It just looks like a person in a suit. It's not the best, especially in the hand department, but this pretty faithfully recreates that. The head looks, for the most part, great. It's got hoses and canisters everywhere. The robe is puffy, you know, the harness is good, the gun's good. The hands look actually maybe a little bit more realistic than they do in the original movie, but that's probably because it's harder to make a figure like this look like it's a person in a suit than an actual version of that. So I'm fine with that. I mean, it doesn't really take much to look like Zuckuss. You just have to have a bunch of tubes, like a dirty ICU bed with legs. But I really don't see how they could have done anything differently to make him look more like Zuckuss, so full point. Moving down to the next spot, which is accessories. What does this figure come with, slash, what could this figure have come with to make it better? And the answer is, it actually comes with a lot. I'm counting the robe and the harness as an accessory because they are not part of the sculpted figure. If you wanted to really try, you could probably remove them. The robe definitely has a slit, but the harness is keeping it in, and I honestly can't find any place for the harness to become unbuckled. And I was a little disappointed at that. The robe is tailored, I guess is the right word for that. The seams folded around to make it hang pretty naturally, which is nice. It's got a really good texture to it. It's got a really good color, kind of splotchy pattern to it. The harness is really well sculpted, and it's got lots of tubes running everywhere, and it's painted and detailed to look like leather, I guess, which I mean, Hasbro's been just doing a killer job with sculpt and paint lately. I just kind of wish that they would come off. But what about the one, you know, accessory that does come off? The actual accessory. And that's gonna be the gun, or his, hold on, I looked this up, GSR snare rifle, is that right? There might have been a number in there that I forgot to write down. You know, it's his gun. But it has like a fun little pistol grip, like a sawed-off shotgun kind of thing. First I was like, oh, that's kind of a plain looking gun, but then I noticed there is a little bit of paint on the side there. I do wish though that they had done a little bit of dry brushing along the edges. It'd be cool if they had a little bit more weathering on that. I feel like that's nitpicking a little bit. The gun itself is still, it's molded great, and it does have a little paint on it already. I just think it would have been cool if they'd had that. It's not perfect, so I'm gonna give it the 0.75. It would have been cool if the robes and harness could have come off. Mostly because I would like to have seen what's underneath the robe. There's a lot of molded stuff going on underneath here, and I want to see it. And the robe, since it doesn't come off. Now you might, in the comment section, let me know that it does come off, and you can tell me how. I don't think I'll amend the score because I couldn't easily figure it out, and I'm a functioning adult, so I should be able to figure this out on its own. But if you look underneath here, it looks like everything's glued, and I don't want to break it because I like it. I don't want to break it. And that brings us over to articulation. Does the figure move well? Let's take a look. Zuckuss' head moves side to side like this. It's not super hindered by the hoses unless you want to go all the way around. His head moves not very far back at all and a little bit forward. He does have a little bit of a waggle as well. His arms move out that far, and it can move all the way around as long as you're careful of his robe. Pulling the sleeve up, he does have a double jointed hinge on his elbow, as well as a wrist swivel. This wrist is hinged vertically. This wrist is hinged horizontally. He has some sort of mid-torso swivel somewhere in there. It moves forward a little bit and back a little bit. He's got a crazy spread. His legs go this far forward and this far back. He has an upper thigh rotation, as well as a double jointed knee. He has an ankle hinge, as well as an ankle rocker, with what may be the widest stance of any Black Series figure, with both their feet flat on the ground. Seriously, it's really wide. Despite all the molding of the big head and the hoses and stuff, it's got a lot of waggle in that head, which is really nice. And then since the robe is big and bulky, it doesn't really restrict any of the movement because it's big, so it has a lot of room for activities underneath the robes. Hasbro likes to give figures with cloth on the top that double jointed elbow, which is unsightly, I guess. So that's what if they can hide it, they'll give it to it, and they did. Zuckuss has a lot of upper body movement and a lot of lower body movement, and not a lot of hindrances because of any kind of sculpting. So that's just really nice. So I'm giving it the full point for the articulation. Not that, Zuckuss ever did a lot of posing. He just did the one pose of just standing there holding his gun in the movie. But if you want to go crazy, you can, because you can. That's the thing you can do. So let's move down to paint and sculpt. Speaking of the robe and lack of articulation and what's underneath it, there's definitely clothes and stuff underneath there, and I would love to see all of it, but you can't. And that kind of sucks. But what I can see is really well done. The head has a lot of great sculpting and a lot of great paint and a nice wash to go over it, and it kind of gets in all the nooks and crannies, and dang, I really like the way it looks. And I've already talked about the robe and the harness and how well they're painted and sculpted, and the harness looks like leather and things like that. I honestly, I can't really say much more than that, other than like this is a really good figure, and this is a category that I do, and that, like, all of this kind of culminates into paint and sculpt, and it deserves the point because it is that good. It's a really good looking figure. It's gorgeous. So let's bring this down to the last category of want/availability. Did I want this, and how easy is it to find? The answer is yes, I wanted this. This was on both my top 10 wish lists that I made. It was the #1 spot. So yeah, the want was definitely there. When he was announced as a Toys R Us exclusive, hence the Toys R Us exclusive little sticker here that I thought I would never see again, because shortly after being announced as a Toys R Us exclusive, Toys R Us announced that they were not going to be a thing anymore. But then, Toys R Us in Canada was like, nah, just kidding, we're going to be a thing. But the UK and US closed down. So we thought, oh, how are we going to get this one? And no one knew for a while. And then they announced, oh, in America, Disney is going to get that. And so we've been patiently waiting for Disney to get those. However, my Canadian Santa Claus, Papa Gord, did procure this from the Toys R Us's that still exist in Canada. And he sent me one because he is a saint. He is an absolute saint. Check out his Instagram, because why not? So eventually you can probably find this at the Disney store or on their website. I believe, if I have seen on Instagram, people are currently finding this character at Disney stores as we speak. It's hitting Disney stores now. Go out and look if you have one. Good luck. I hope you find it. If you don't, check their website. So in terms of what the score is for want/availability, I'm gonna give it a 0.75. I would dock it a little more because of the availability thing. I'm hoping against hope that he'll be easy to find. I don't want to give him the 0.5 for that, because what if he is, and what if I'm wrong, and I don't know. I'm just like Zuckuss. So I'm giving it the 0.75. And that brings us down to a final score of 4.5 out of 5. And that is a great score. If you're doing this out of 10, that'd be a 9 out of 10. And the only thing I'm really docking it for are not for the figure itself, I guess a little bit, because you can't take his clothes off. That's weird. I'm docking a point because you can't take his clothes off. This is what my life has become. I feel like this is a character that belongs in your collection, especially if you like cool looking aliens, if you like bounty hunters, and if you like Empire Strikes Back. And I think that encompasses most Star Wars fans. The only thing I can think of is if you don't like 6-inch Star Wars figures, you don't collect them in general, that's the only reason I can think of why you wouldn't buy this. Otherwise, if you see it, you should buy it. It's worth it. It belongs in your collection. This is honestly a masterpiece of a figure, and another figure in a long line of figures that's going to give me a headache trying to decide what the best figure of 2018 is, because right now I feel like they're pretty much all the best. So that's it for my Zuckuss review. What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you looking forward to this figure? Did you find it already? Let me know in the comments. I like to read those. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe if you want to. There's also a couple different ways in the downstairs area that you can support my channel if you want. Again, it's all if you want. But that's it. Thanks for getting this far, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.